subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to get all the latest updates. Hi everyone, my name is Anita and I welcome you on Inkpothub Media once again. So this is going to be a very interesting conversation because I'm speaking with Sangeeta Menon, who is pursuing her PhD from FIIB New Delhi, and she has gotten 16 plus years of experience in publishing. She has worked with various publication houses, and today she is going to explain about her journey so far, her decisions to take up PhD in in FIIB, and why she made her decision, how has been her journey so far, and many other unseen, unfold conversations we are going to have. I welcome you, Sangeeta. Thank you so much for accepting our request, and I am looking forward to to this candid conversation because I am looking as a potential PhD student. What made you decide for taking a PhD at FIIB is going to help many other students in the coming times to decide for the PhD program. And because FIIB is really doing well, I would love to know from you many other aspects around your decision. But tell me about yourself first. Who is Sangeeta Menon and what made you decide to take up the PhD program in the first place?
Thanks for having me here, Anita. Uh, like you said, 16 plus years of experience in publishing, and not just publishing, research publishing, in fact.
Uh-huh.
So, this is the area I'm most familiar with and my natural fit. So, I think, more than when you're doing PhD, it's not a matter of intelligence, it's a matter of having the right temperament
True.
to carry out the kind of research. And I always had that temperament. So for me, PhD was a very natural step to take. The next would have been to find the right institute. And that's where I think I've had that advantage of having worked with so many top institutes across the country in my, nearly, uh, 16, 17 years of experience that I've had. So I've been in very good editorial positions. I've been in touch with some very good professors, and getting admission wasn't the biggest challenge for me. It was to decide on which institute I wanted to do my PhD from.
Mhm.
And one advice that I've heard over and over again from so many different people is that don't focus on the institute, focus on who's going to be your guide.
Okay.
And that was an advice that came in very handy for a person like me because, like I said, getting access or getting admission into an institute was not a problem, but to find the right fit was very important.
So you found
Uh,
your
uh,
fit in FIIB.
oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, it just came together so well because as a working person, you'd want to make sure that you don't want to give up your career, put it on pause and go into full-time PhD. That was a huge challenge for me. Unfortunately, there was not so much flexibility in so many other institutes that I was looking in the PhD programs into. But also the fact that you need the right kind of program to support you because I can tell you, even though I've worked in research publishing and I know a lot of things about how to write an article, I writing knowing about it and writing it is very very different experience, and you need hand holding, you need guidance in that aspect. So you need a team that can understand what are your challenges, and people like me who are coming from working, who have been working for so many decades, we have practical knowledge, we have made great observations in our respective fields. Problem is putting it in research so it can benefit others, it can
Mhm.
benefit whatever subject fields we are coming from,
Mhm.
or contribute to that knowledge.
Mhm.
And that transition, it becomes very crucial. So we do have a lot of contributions to bring in, and especially in research, when we talk about applied research, becomes very very important. And that's where executives like us come in handy. So I found that FIIB's executive program, was designed especially for people like me. It had all the elements that I was looking for. It had the right guides. More importantly, it understood what could be the possible pain points just in terms of how much time we are devoting into our assignments and research. How do we go about it? How do we extract? How do they extract that kind of knowledge we bring into our assignments? It may sound like a very small thing, but it becomes. I found the way I'm approaching work has changed just in the last few months that I've started the program. So FIB was like I saw those elements right in the beginning when I was going through the program details. I fortunately had the opportunity of knowing a lot of FIB faculty members and the team members well in advance because of my work. And so for me, it was never a matter of question. So I would have probably gone for some other well-known institute had FIB not happened for me. So
Mhm.
FIB was my first choice.
Okay, that I think it's all about finding that fit. I think after certain work experience, so we know that this is a place which we were looking for, and finally we got in. And um, okay, so further conversation, I'm going to ask Sangeeta two things. One about the PhD admission experience, how that was, and what kind of expectations were there during your interview of the uh, for the admission. And second thing, I would like to know about the coursework. So these are two important things because the potential PhD students look forward to these kind of conversations. So tell me more about your, because you have to go back like 9-10 months back and you have to recall those memories. Tell me more about your admission process. So what kind of questions were there? How long it was? Tell me more about it now.
So when it comes to the admission process, I think the biggest factor was the submission I made for a proposal.
Okay.
That was the basis of my interviews later.
Mhm.
So even to prepare the proposal, first of all, I did my research in terms of how do I present the proposal best, what are the elements that need to be captured very well. But the challenge when you're writing a proposal, and this I think is applies to anyone who's writing this, is trying to not go too broad. When you really start thinking, what do I want to do my research on, and you try not to go so broad in your approach about the topic, because you want the team to understand, your interviewer to understand that what your research interest is. So that clarity has to be there. And but then FIB team was extremely helpful in terms of helping me understand, like it's okay.
Uh,
Yes,
hmm.
they gave me advice. First of all, they were extremely supportive. I was terrified of the written exam, to be honest, because I had not written it for nearly, nearly 20 years. And they was like, no, go ahead. It's not that difficult. You just need to practice a few things. And which I did. I practiced a few of those questions and hopefully enough to pass, because they also understand these written tests don't mean much. It just is an indication. What matters more is your thought process, which is what your submissions are supposed to reflect, your proposal is supposed to reflect, and your interview should express very well. So uh, I prepared my submission. I had to really rethink about the topic I was going to suggest and what are the merits that I could bring in terms of my research, to the institute, to myself, and what is going to be my contribution eventually. During the interview itself, I was very happy with the way they had gone through every detail, and they kind of questioned me on my logical reasoning, or they understood what my background was, where I was coming from, but my logical reasoning for thinking why this was a great topic, or this is where I wanted to invest my time.
Hmm.
And I thought that was very interesting, because I felt they were not just focusing on the proposal, they were not just focusing on my profile, but the combination of the two. And also
Hmm.
whether, like I said, that being from the publishing background does bring me a lot of advantages of understanding how it works, but research is a very different question, different ball game altogether.
True.
So even asking me simple things like, how relevant is it going to be, your research going to be in the future? Have you thought about it? Or are you still stuck in a particular direction that this is how it is going to be? Have you consider the possibility of anything that does not match what practical knowledge you carry or observation, because your research might say something contradictory to what you believe right now. So how are you going to handle it? And these are questions which were uh, really thought provoking. Thankfully, like again, I was able to defend my proposal well enough and explain what I had in mind. But I also had this feeling that the interviewers understood exactly where I was coming from. So they know that there is scope of learning for me also. And of course, when anyone will tell you, you start your research with a particular mindset, and
Mm-hmm.
when you go through the journey is when it starts to
Mm-hmm.
develop and your ideas become clearer to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, like I've not been disappointed at all at any aspect. So
Okay,
the
so
interview was really good that way.
okay, so how long the interview was? Like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, if you
I think
remember.
it was nearly for an hour,
Oh wow,
but
okay.
where I had to explain whatever I had presented, what my proposal was about,
Mm-hmm.
and then the questions followed. So I had
So
two
it was so
interviewers.
let me filter it down. So it was about 1 hour. It was about your synopsis. It was about questions around your synopsis. Were you also asked about your background, publishing background, and also some
Mhm.
subject related questions, some conceptual questions? Were you asked about those questions?
There were some questions definitely. Like for instance, you've been in publishing for so long. How come you're not done your PhD yet, or what made you come
Uh-huh.
to think about PhD now at this stage in your career,
Okay.
and
Mm-hmm.
why not 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Or so to understand what brought me, because quite honestly, like I said, I could have done PhD, but to reach that point of understanding what subject I wanted to do in, and more importantly where I wanted to do in, it came together for me only in
Okay.
the last when I came across FIIB program. So I had to explain my logical reason of why I held back from doing PhD. So they did ask me a few questions about my background and my understanding of research publishing also. But I think the CV also indicated I knew fairly well about it. So the
True.
focus was more on my submission, my proposal submission,
Okay. Okay.
rather than my career itself,
Okay.
because
Okay.
I think that clarity was already there.
Okay, great. So you got your admission. So finally, you made it through. You made it possible that you are in the FPM program. Now comes the coursework. Tell me more about it. How your experience has been so far. You are already in the program for like more than 9, 10 months now.
I'm in my second module, so it's
Okay.
still fairly early for me. But what has happened is that besides the fact that we had a coursework that was already designed for executives, which meant a lot of the pain points were already taken care of, we did have regular meetings to discuss if we were facing any problems in terms of understanding subjects, whatever was being taught, because there's a lot of coursework that we need to take care of. And whether you like it or not, when you sign up for PhD, you have a lot of assignments and a lot of writing and reading to do. So, was it something we are able to do with our responsibilities? And also, we had sessions on personal development, which was to help us align our personal life to create that kind of balance behind, work, your personal life, and PhD, which I thought was particularly helpful for people like me, because uh, we have been living in a certain manner. We have been managing our work hours and our personal lives. But when you add PhD to that element, to that mix, it's not very easy. So how have others managed? What are the advices in terms of managing coursework and work? Where do you find that balance? And how do you do it? So we had those sessions as well.
Okay.
And again, I think FIB has been very good in terms of keeping track with everyone, because we all come from different experiences, different backgrounds, and we're in different stages of our own research journeys. So
Mhm.
even though we started together, the institute has been very proactive in keeping a track of all of us and understanding what our individual needs are. So whether it's training how to use our databases, how do we access databases, or to addressing any particular challenges we may be finding in
Uh-huh.
terms of assignments, how are we handling the
Mm.
feedback. So all that has been an incredible journey, and I think one of the things that you need to get used to is the weekend classes,
Mhm.
hours and hours of weekend classes, which surprisingly weren't as taxing as I thought it would be, because they've been very interesting as well.
Mhm.
So that
I
was my
remember Madam Radhika Shrivastava talking about this personality development classes just for this reason that we need to understand people first before putting so much coursework on them and putting so much classes and burden on them. So this is really an interesting thing. I am for the audience sake, for the future students, I will be putting Madam Radhika Shrivastava's video somewhere here so that you can just click and check what she also told about the development workshop. Actually, very very interesting initiative from FIIB. So this is all about the coursework because it is. I think it is based on modules, different modules for the executive program. Okay. Uh, what next? What is the next stage?
I think I'm going to be stuck with, a lot more coursework for the
Uh-huh.
time being. But we see the way it is designed, you have a lot of coursework, basic coursework in the first module, then you have lesser coursework, but you also have workshops and all to attend. And the idea with, see, when in school you're taught, in when you start doing your come to your bachelor's, your it's less teaching, a little bit of self learning. MBA, your post graduation, it is more of self learning, and when you come to PhD, it is coaching, it's not teaching. One of the things that I really liked about FIB is that at this very early stage, I mean, we are nowhere close to our research thesis right now, but they have already assigned mentors for us to guide us through the
Okay.
process, because this is not something that a lot of institutes do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad, because I've heard of so many cases where, after 2 years of PhD, your guide comes in and says, oh, this may not work out the way you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a huge setback,
Mm-hmm.
it's a time, emotion that goes into all that work you do. So to have a mentor at this early stage itself, and to have that kind of one-on-one guidance is absolutely essential. And that's been a fantastic thing that's just started for me right now. I'm in my second module.
Okay.
And also to understand, like, what are we going to achieve in the next 6 months, next 1 year, and when do I need to start working on my final thesis. These are all questions we need to start addressing very early on, as I'm learning as well. So there's an absolute journey, but there's a lot of confidence in the kind of understanding what is to be expected. So
Mm-hmm.
that gives a
Mm-hmm.
lot of comfort.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting, Radhika. Radhika ma'am also mentioned about it, and Sangeeta, you just reframed it in a very beautiful way. I really loved the entire conversation over here. Some few tips to the future potential PhD students. A lot of are looking for guidance. So if you can provide, say, three tips or three recommendations to prepare for the PhD admission at FIIB.
I think when it comes to preparing for your PhD entrance,
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to ask yourself the question, what is going to be my contribution in terms of research?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to form the basis of your proposal that you're going to be sharing with the institute. Uh, do your research well, whatever you can. Nobody's expecting perfection, but it's very good to see a proposal that has been thought into, and put together carefully. So preparing that proposal becomes a very important aspect. Secondly, be very prepared for the kind of journey that is likely to follow, because I think there are a lot of people who come in with that expectation that, you know sab kar lenge, ho jayega, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not that easy. You need to have, like I always say, it's not about PhD is not about intelligence. It's about a lot to do with temperament.
Mm-hmm.
You can be at any stage of your life, whatever IQ, you can always learn the skills. So it becomes very important to think about what are you getting from that institute to help you develop those skills.
Mm-hmm.
And your PhD program in FIB exactly gives you that kind of support. So don't use that excuse of maybe I'm not good enough. Go ahead, just think about the kind of proposal you want to put together in thinking in terms of your future contribution. What are you getting out of this program? What is the institute getting out of it? Or what is your contribution to the society? That has to be your
Mhm.
focus. And
Okay.
definitely there's a huge advantage if you're an working executive like me, because you bring in practical knowledge, and you're combining literature to your practical knowledge and observation, which can bring a lot of benefits
Mhm.
uh, to the society. So I think
Mhm.
there's keeping that in mind is extremely important when you're applying for a PhD program.
Okay. So one last question. Any book recommendation you have so that students can read that book, and maybe any textbook or any mental preparation book kind of, if you have read any. So if you can suggest.
Mm, and there's so many books. Possibly Simon Sinek's Start with a Why.
Okay.
That could be a good start. I realized one thing, that you have to question every little thing when it comes to research.
Huh.
So to have that kind of uh, capacity to question everything that comes your way is very,
Mhm.
very important, to have that inquiring mind. So
Mhm.
Simon Sinek's books, I would really say, are a good start if you're trying to develop that mindset.
Uh-huh.
And especially if you're coming with a lot of work experience, you need to come back to that basics where you start asking the question why, because sometimes we get very sure about what we know already.
Uh-huh.
So that would be my recommendation to anyone who's looking for some good books to
Great,
develop that
great,
mindset.
Sangeeta. I think this summarizes the entire journey of yours so far. And I wish you all the best for the further steps, for the modules, your thesis, your proposal, and final stage. I'm going to come back to you once you finish your PhD to learn the entire journey. I'm very excited to host you once again. Already, I'm very excited. So let's meet soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anita. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. It's great to see you all here. Thank you for watching our work. If you have not subscribed to Inkpothub Media, then please hit the bell icon and subscribe to our channel and support research celebrations in India.